25 years of marriage should have felt like a celebration. And Naomi Carter kept reminding herself of that as she stood in her elegant Atlanta Georgia condo holding the silver anniversary invitation Darren had proudly designed. The card said, "A night to remember," but something in her spirit warned her the night would be remembered for entirely different reasons. 2 nights before the anniversary, Naomi woke at 3 a.m. to the muffled sound of voices in the kitchen. She realized she wasn't imagining it when she recognized Celeste Carter's sharp tone, Darren's mother, a woman who had disapproved of her from day one and still blamed her for their childless marriage. Naomi stepped quietly into the hallway and saw the glow under the kitchen door. Darren spoke with a low, controlled voice. "We just need to make sure she doesn't suspect anything. It has to look natural." Celeste replied confidently. "She won't. Naomi always believes whatever you tell her." The words hit Naomi hard, tightening her chest with the unmistakable sense that something was being planned behind her back. She silently returned to the bedroom, climbed into bed, and moments later Darren joined her. He wrapped his arm around her as if everything were normal, but Naomi's mind stayed sharply awake, replaying every word she'd heard. The next morning, Darren behaved like the perfect husband, overly affectionate, constantly hovering, complimenting her hair, brushing against her waist, asking about her plans, offering to run errands. He wouldn't stop talking about the anniversary dinner he booked at Magnolia Crest, an exclusive Atlanta rooftop restaurant known for its skyline views and upscale crowd. He described the menu, the decorations, the music, and the special plans he had prepared like a man trying too hard to sell a dream. As Naomi wiped down the counter, Darren's phone lit up. A calendar alert flashed. "Call S." She asked lightly, "Who's S?" He looked up without hesitation. "New assistant at the office." But Naomi caught the quick shift in his eyes. His answer was practiced, too clean, too convenient. She set down the cloth and studied him as he walked away. Something was off, and she had felt it long before the message popped up. Their marriage had changed. Darren had changed. Or maybe things had been shifting longer than she realized. She looked around their shared home, filled with 25 years of history photos from their early days, framed travel pictures, anniversary gifts, shared milestones. It didn't comfort her the way it usually did. Instead, it felt like a backdrop for something she was being pushed out of. Naomi had supported Darren when he was just starting out, held the household together through his long hours, and worked side by side with him to build the life they had. But standing there, watching him avoid her questions and drown her in exaggerated affection, she felt the ground beneath her marriage beginning to crack. The anniversary night Darren promised would be unforgettable was coming fast, and deep down Naomi already knew it would change their lives in ways neither of them could undo. The day after the strange late-night conversation, Celeste Carter showed up unannounced, dressed in her usual designer suit and carrying a tray of store-bought pastries she pretended were homemade. Naomi opened the door with polite restraint, already bracing herself. Celeste stepped inside with the air of someone inspecting a place she felt entitled to. She looked around the living room, giving subtle, judgmental glances at the decor. "I see you still haven't changed the curtains," she said. "After 25 years, it might be time for a fresh look." Naomi ignored the jab and guided her to the dining table. Celeste wasted no time before launching into a forced conversation about future plans, asking whether Naomi and Darren had finalized their wills. She tapped her manicured nails on the table. "You never know what life brings. It's important that everything is protected, especially for the family. My nephews would be excellent beneficiaries. Young men need a foundation." Naomi stiffened but kept her expression calm. "I'll take care of my own assets, Celeste. That's not something I need outside suggestions on." Celeste pressed on, her tone sugary but firm. "And speaking of assets, where do you keep the condo paperwork these days?" "Just making sure everything is updated. It's easy for things to get misplaced." The question was too pointed. Naomi's instincts sharpened instantly. "The documents are fine where they are," she replied. "And they're not anyone's concern but mine." Celeste pretended to smile, but Naomi saw the satisfaction in her eyes, a look that confirmed her mother-in-law was involved in something more than casual curiosity. After Celeste finally left, Naomi released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. She walked straight to Darren's office room, sat at his desk and tried opening his laptop. The password had always been their wedding date, not anymore. He had changed it. Naomi stared at the incorrect password screen until her pulse steadied. Then she tried the reverse date. It unlocked instantly. Her stomach dropped. He had changed the password. But he hadn't expected her to think like him. Naomi clicked through his browser history and found late-night searches about divorce laws in Georgia, division of marital assets, loopholes on property, and strategies to retain primary residence rights. The condo. He was researching how to take her home. Just then, Naomi's phone rang. It was Candace, her closest friend. "Girl, you won't believe what I saw earlier," Candace said. "I was at that fancy jeweler in Buckhead, and Darren walked in with some young woman. Long weave, tight dress, red nails. Looked about half your age. They were looking at rings." Naomi closed her eyes. Her heartbeat stayed steady, not from calmness but from clarity. Candace continued. "He looked nervous, kept checking the door. She looked real comfortable, though." "You okay?" "I'm fine," Naomi answered, though her world was shifting rapidly. "Thank you for telling me." Moments later, the front door opened. Darren walked in holding flowers and chocolates, her favorite brand, tied with gold ribbon. "Thought I'd surprise you," he said with a bright smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I want this anniversary to be special. Let's not talk about anything heavy until after the celebration." He kissed her cheek, placed the gifts on the counter, and walked off humming, pretending everything was perfect. Naomi watched him go, her expression unreadable. She now knew with certainty something bigger, darker, and more intentional was unfolding, and Darren and Celeste were at the center of it. Later that evening, Darren rushed out for a quick errand, claiming he had to meet a client before the anniversary weekend. He left his phone charging on the dresser, something he never did. Naomi didn't touch it at first. She simply continued folding laundry, trying to process everything she had already discovered. Then the phone buzzed. Voicemail notification appeared on the screen from Celeste. Naomi didn't hesitate. She pressed play. Celeste's voice came through sharp and impatient. "Darren, I spoke to Attorney Hayes. He's ready for Sunday night. Just make sure Naomi doesn't get suspicious. She must be shocked enough to sign everything when we get back home. Call me as soon as you hear this." Naomi's breath tightened, but her focus sharpened. She replayed the voicemail to make sure she heard every word correctly. Hayes, papers, shock, sign. Everything. They were planning to break her emotionally so she'd hand over the condo. The phone buzzed again, this time a message. Preview from a name Naomi had never seen before. Sierra. A heart emoji sat next to the name. Naomi knew she had to unlock the phone. She tried the wedding date. Wrong. She tried her birthday. Wrong. She tried his mother's birthday. Wrong. She tried the reversed wedding date again. Still wrong. She sat still for a moment, thinking carefully. Then she remembered. Candace's call. The jewelry store. The young woman. The matching gold ring box. Naomi tried the exact date. Candace said she saw him, just the month and day. The phone unlocked. Her stomach dropped, but her expression stayed controlled. She opened the messages, the entire screen filled with an intimate, excited back and forth between Darren and Sierra Jackson, a 27-year-old paralegal who worked in the same building as his office. Naomi scrolled and saw messages filled with sweet names, late-night plans, hotel reservations, and promises Darren had no right to make. Then she reached the message that made everything painfully clear. "Darren, just hold on until our anniversary dinner. That's when I'll officially end things. After she signs the waiver for the condo, you and I can start fresh. The place will be ours." Sierra responded with a smiling selfie taken in what looked like Darren's car. "I can't wait to move into our new home. Your mom said the lawyer is lining everything up." Naomi's hand didn't shake. She kept scrolling. There were pictures of expensive gifts Darren had bought her: necklaces, spa receipts, weekend getaway confirmations. He had already spent thousands of dollars on the woman. Then the final message: "Sunday night is the big moment. Just make sure you sit near the front. I want you to see it." He wanted his mistress to watch her humiliation. Naomi closed the phone and placed it exactly where it had been. She didn't cry, didn't scream, and didn't collapse. She walked calmly to her purse, pulled out her phone, and called the one person she trusted with her life, Aisha Monroe. Her longtime friend, now one of Atlanta's top family attorneys. Aisha answered on the first ring. Naomi? What's wrong? Naomi's voice was steady. I need legal advice, urgently and privately. Aisha's tone sharpened with concern. Tell me everything. Naomi explained it all. Celeste's late-night talk. Darren's lies, the jeweler sighting, the voicemail, the messages. The plan to blindside her at the anniversary and pressure her into signing over the condo. Aisha listened without interruption. Finally, she spoke. Okay, first, don't confront him. Not yet. Pretend you know nothing. Second, collect every piece of evidence you can. Screenshots, recordings, timestamps. Third, protect your finances immediately. And fourth, whatever he has planned will backfire if we move strategically. Naomi felt her chest loosen just slightly. Aisha added, I'm coming over first thing in the morning. You're not going through this alone. Naomi ended the call, took a deep breath, and looked around her home, the one Darren planned to steal. Not on her watch. The plan Darren and Celeste had crafted so carefully was real, but Naomi now had a plan of her own. Over the next few days, Darren's behavior shifted into something sharper and more revealing. He wasn't openly cruel, but his comments suddenly carried a sting they never had before. When Naomi dressed for work, he glanced at her outfit and casually said, You know, women your age look great when they update their style. Younger women keep things fresh. Maybe try a brighter lipstick or a new hairstyle. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. His intentions were becoming clearer by the hour. When they sat at dinner, he talked about fitness routines, cosmetic treatments, the importance of maintaining youth, and how men in their 40s and 50s were still in demand. He said it with the tone of someone testing boundaries, preparing justification for something he already felt entitled to. Then came the weekends. Work had never required Darren to leave the house on Saturdays and Sundays. But suddenly he had back-to-back meetings, urgent office calls, and team events. Naomi didn't question him, not out of trust, but out of strategy. Every time he left dressed too nicely for business, carrying cologne she hadn't bought. She knew exactly where he was going. One Saturday afternoon, after Darren rushed out in a tailored suit, Naomi sat at the kitchen table with his bank statements pulled up on her tablet. She hadn't looked at their joint account in detail for months, but now she studied every line. Her stomach hardened. Thousands of dollars were missing, gone in chunks of $1,000. 2,500,3,800美元. Fancy restaurants, luxury stores, hotel reservations, jewelry purchases. More than $30,000 spent in silence. He wasn't just cheating. He was funding his double life with her money. As she clicked through the transactions, she remembered something she had nearly forgotten. 2 months earlier, she had received a thick envelope from Germany. At the time, she was too busy to process it and simply placed it in her home office drawer. Now she retrieved it. Inside was a formal letter written in German, stamped with a Munich law office seal. Her Aunt Josephine, her mother's older sister, had passed away and left her entire estate to Naomi, her closest living relative. Naomi. Read every paragraph slowly this time. Her aunt had left her a modern condo in Munich, a luxury condo in Miami, beach savings in multiple accounts, investments in real estate, and a cash inheritance totaling over $3 million. Naomi sat at her desk, absorbing the magnitude of it. She wasn't just financially stable, she was wealthy. And Darren knew nothing about it. She stood, walked to her bedroom closet, and pulled down the original folder containing the deed to their Atlanta condo. She flipped through the pages until she reached the one that mattered most. The deed clearly stated that Naomi's parents purchased the condo entirely in her name, years before she added Darren after the wedding. He had no original claim, no legal ownership from the start. It was a premarital gift, Naomi's. Breathing steadied as everything aligned. Darren thought he would corner her. He thought she would be blindsided. He thought she would panic and sign whatever Hayes shoved in front of her after the anniversary dinner. But now she knew the condo was hers by law, had millions in her own accounts, and she had an attorney ready to defend her. Naomi placed all documents, the condo deed, the inheritance papers, the German letter, the bank statements on her dining table, and organized them into a neat folder. Her life had been built carefully, quietly, and with generosity. Darren and Celeste had no idea how strong she truly was. They were preparing a public betrayal. But Naomi was preparing a response they would never see coming. Arly Monday morning. Naomi drove across Atlanta to meet attorney Lionel Perry, the real estate lawyer who had handled the original condo purchase decades ago. She sat in his polished office while he reviewed the old documents she brought. After flipping through the pages, Perry looked up over his glasses. Mrs. Carter, this condo was purchased entirely with funds from your parents. That makes it a premarital gift. Even though your husband's name was added later, legally the original ownership remains solely yours. Naomi felt steady, controlled. So it cannot be divided in a divorce? Perry nodded. Correct. Unless you willingly sign something transferring ownership, it remains yours. If you'd like, I can prepare the official statement confirming this. Yes, Naomi said firmly. Please do. He promised to have it ready by the next day. By the time Naomi got home, a thick international envelope was waiting on the kitchen counter. Another package from Germany finalizing her aunt's estate distribution. Inside were certified bank documents, a list of her aunt's assets, and an official inheritance declaration. Everything was now legally hers. She took her time going through it, absorbing the numbers, the addresses, the accounts. It felt surreal, not because of the wealth itself, but because she had spent years living modestly, while Darren secretly drained their joint account trying to impress another woman, her aunt's careful planning had just become Naomi's freedom. Hours later, Darren called with excitement in his voice that felt painfully fake. Babe, great news! The anniversary celebration is confirmed. The ballroom at the Watergate Grand is reserved. 100 guests. Live band, open bar, chef's tasting menu. It's going to be unforgettable. He didn't mention the cost, but Naomi already knew where the money came from, her savings. She answered calmly. That's a lot of people. It needs to be big, Darren said. 25 years is major. Just trust me on this. He sounded thrilled, confident, certain that his plan was unfolding perfectly. Later that afternoon, Celeste dropped by uninvited again. She walked in smiling too brightly, holding a small envelope. I brought you something. Naomi, she said, handing it over. Inside was a business card for attorney Charles Hayes, embossed in gold. He's offering free consultations this month. Thought you might need some clarity on legal matters. Just in case. The implication was obvious. Naomi slid the card into her purse without reaction. Thank you. Celeste watched her carefully. Searching for fear, she didn't find any. That night, while putting away laundry, Naomi found a paper tucked inside Darren's jacket pocket. It was a printed appointment reminder with Hayes' name on it, and the date matched the late-night kitchen conversation she overheard. Next to it was a faint trace of perfume. Not hers. Not anything she owned. A young, sugary fragrance, sweet, cheap, and bold. When Darren came home, he tried to act affectionate again, asking about dinner, praising her cooking, massaging her shoulders. Naomi played along, her face unreadable as he leaned close, unaware she could smell another woman on him. Later, close to midnight, Naomi heard voices again, this time from the study. She stepped quietly toward the doorway and listened. Darren spoke with the confidence of a man who believed he had already won. So Sunday night, I'll start with the speech. I'll thank her for the years together, then shift into how we've grown apart. When she's crying, we'll slip out, go home, and Hayes will be waiting with the documents. She signed. She always signs. Celeste replied, satisfied. Good. And Sierra will be there to support you afterward. You deserve someone who can give you what Naomi never could. This is the right move. Naomi didn't flinch. She silently backed away and returned to the bedroom. She opened the folder of documents she had arranged, the deed, the inheritance paperwork, the bank evidence, the legal confirmations. Every piece of truth she needed. Darren's entire scheme was set. Celeste's role was set. Hayes' part was in place. Sierra was ready to step into the life Naomi had built, but none of them had any idea that Naomi now had every tool she needed to dismantle their plan with one move. The stage for the anniversary was set, but it would not end the way Darren imagined. The next morning, Naomi woke before sunrise with a clear plan in mind. She sat at her vanity, breathing steadily, then opened her banking app. With deliberate precision, she transferred half of the remaining joint savings into her newly created personal account. She left the rest untouched enough for Darren to believe she still knew nothing. She showered, dressed for work, and collected the documents Attorney Perry had promised. The official letter confirming her premarital ownership of the condo was ready and stamped. Naomi thanked him, slipped the folder into her purse, and headed straight to her office. Her boss, Marilyn Gates, called her in for a routine check-in. But Naomi decided this was her moment. "I need to let you know I'm preparing for a divorce," Naomi said plainly. "There may be turbulence soon." Marilyn's expression softened. "You've been one of the strongest team leads here for over a decade. Whatever support you need, you have it." That reassurance strengthened Naomi's resolve. During her lunch break, she returned home, retrieved her inheritance papers, and began organizing everything into a clean, structured file. German statements, property titles, bank certificates, each page represented security Darren could never take from her. Then she grabbed her keys and drove to the German consulate in Atlanta. The clerk processed her identification, matched it with the inheritance documents, and by the end of the meeting she had full, formal control over her European accounts. The clerk glanced at the numbers and raised his eyebrows. "You are in a very fortunate position, Miss Carter," Naomi responded with quiet confidence. "I'm aware." Next, she drove to the international branch bank that handled her aunt's investments. After an hour of verification, the banker handed her account summary showing balances large enough to reshape her future entirely. She placed the papers into her leather folder and walked out feeling lighter, almost free. Later that afternoon, Naomi stopped by the Watergate Grand to see the venue Darren had chosen. As she approached the entrance, she heard a bright, youthful voice from around the corner. "Baby, this place is gorgeous! I can't believe we're going to celebrate here." The voice belonged to Sierra. Naomi stepped slightly to the side and listened. Sierra held her phone up to take selfies with the hotel in the background. "After Sunday, everything will be different," she said excitedly. "I can't wait till we move into the condo." There it was, the delusion Darren had fed her. Naomi peeked around the corner just long enough to confirm Sierra's face. She was stunning, long honey blonde braids, flawless makeup, slim waist, fitted dress. But beneath her beauty, Naomi saw something else. Ambition wrapped in selfishness. Sierra didn't care who was hurt as long as she got what she wanted. The younger woman caught Naomi's eye for a split second and dismissed her as just another hotel guest. "People staring," Sierra muttered, rolling her eyes before skipping off to take another photo. Naomi entered the hotel lobby and met the event manager. "Oh, Mrs. Carter, your husband has gone all out," he said enthusiastically. He pulled up the reservation page. 100 guests, floral arrangements, a chocolate fountain, top-tier wine, live jazz band. The final price is around $45,000, truly romantic. Romantic was the last word Naomi would have used. The manager led her to the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above silk-covered tables. Candles, rose petals, carefully arranged centerpieces, it really was stunning. But Naomi saw it clearly for what it was. The stage Darren planned to use to destroy her dignity. She memorized the microphone placement, the layout, the flow of the room. She needed to know exactly how the evening would unfold. After leaving the hotel, Naomi returned home. She walked inside quietly, sensing more than hearing Darren and Celeste talking in the study again. Their muffled voices sounded pleased, satisfied, confident enough to laugh. The perfect trap was ready, but Naomi simply placed her purse on the dining table, sat down, and spread her documents in front of her. The deed proving sole ownership, the inheritance confirmation, the bank evidence, her legal notes, Aisha's instructions, the new financial statements. She assembled everything into a sleek, organized folder, her shield and her weapon. She closed it gently, rested her hand on the cover, and exhaled. Darren thought she was walking into an ambush, but Naomi knew better. This time, she would be the one controlling the ending. On the morning of their anniversary, Naomi woke before the alarm. Darren stood near the window adjusting his tie, clearly excited. When he noticed her stirring, he turned with a strange mix of confidence and pity. "Naomi," he said, "after tonight, your life is going to change." Everything will finally make sense. The tone made her stomach tighten, but her face remained serene. Is that so? He simply nodded, as if holding on to a secret he couldn't wait to reveal. Naomi mentally recorded every expression, every clue. She dressed carefully for the night, choosing a sleek, deep emerald gown that complemented her skin and highlighted her figure with elegant simplicity. She styled her hair into loose curls and wore the diamond earrings her parents had given her years before. From the doorway, Darren stared at her longer than usual. "You look nice," he said. But the compliment felt rehearsed. Naomi slipped her folder of documents into her purse without him noticing. The drive to the Watergate Grand was quiet. Darren tapped his fingers on the steering wheel, humming softly, his mind clearly rehearsing his speech. Naomi watched the passing city lights, her heartbeat steady, her thoughts organized. She wasn't walking into a trap, she was walking into a stage. When they stepped into the ballroom, the crowd erupted with applause and cheerful greetings. "Happy anniversary. 25 years. Congratulations. You two are goals." Naomi smiled politely, but she could feel the underlying tension spreading through the room like invisible smoke. Beautiful decorations filled the space, crystal glasses, long floral centerpieces, and warm golden lighting. She noted everything: the microphone, the raised platform, the seating arrangements. Her eyes caught Sierra seated near the front, dressed in a tight silver dress that shimmered under the lights. She smiled proudly whenever Darren glanced her way. Naomi saw the slight wave Sierra gave him, subtle but bold. And there, at a back table, sat Attorney Hayes, quiet and stiff. Watching everything unfold, Celeste floated through the room like she owned it, hugging guests and directing attention to her son. "Oh." Darren planned everything. She told anyone who would listen. He really wants a new chapter in life. Naomi took a sip of champagne and observed. The jazz band dimmed its music. The MC tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please give your attention to the man of the evening, Mr. Darren Carter." Applause filled the room. Darren took the stage with a charismatic smile, holding the microphone with the confidence of a man performing his best role. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began warmly. 25 years of marriage is an accomplishment. Naomi and I have shared memories, traveled, grown, and we've come to a place where truth matters more than anything. The tone shifted. Naomi saw Celeste straighten with satisfaction. Sierra leaned forward in her chair. Hayes folded his hands, waiting for his cue. Darren continued, "Some of you may not know the challenges we've faced. Naomi is a reliable partner, but we've grown in different directions. My life has expanded. My needs have changed. And I refuse to live a lie any longer." Small gasps echoed across the tables. He kept going, voice rising with self-importance. "A man like me, working at the level I do, needs someone who fits his lifestyle. Someone vibrant. Someone youthful. Someone who understands ambition and passion. Naomi is not that. Not anymore." The room tightened with silence. Darren smiled, oblivious to the disgust forming on guests' faces. "So tonight," he said, "I want to announce that our marriage is ending. We're separating. And we will be dividing our lives, including the condo, in a fair, respectful way. I've already arranged everything." Sierra straightened proudly, her eyes shimmering with victory. Celeste nodded approvingly. Naomi's face remained composed. Darren lifted his champagne glass to new beginnings. But no one lifted theirs. The betrayal Darren thought would crush her had officially been delivered in front of 100 witnesses, under golden chandeliers. With his mistress glowing in the front row, he believed he had just rewritten Naomi's future. He had no idea she was about to rewrite his. Darren held his champagne glass in the air, waiting for applause that never came. The silence spread across the ballroom like a cold wind, uncomfortable and heavy. Guests shifted in their seats, glancing at each other in disbelief. Celeste looked confused by the lack of excitement. Sierra kept smiling, convinced this moment was meant for her. Naomi stood up slowly. Her movements were calm, graceful, controlled, the opposite of Darren's chaotic bravado. She walked toward him with her head high and her emerald dress gliding elegantly with each step. Darren lowered the microphone, expecting tears, begging, humiliation. Instead, Naomi took the microphone from his hand. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady and clear. "Since my husband has shared his truth, it's only right that I share mine." The room stiffened into total silence. Naomi turned slightly so everyone in the ballroom could see her face. For the last few weeks, I've known everything Darren and his mother planned. The late-night calls, the meetings with Attorney Hayes, the strategy to humiliate me tonight so I would sign over the condo. And yes, even the part where his mistress was invited to sit front row. Gasps burst through the crowd. Sierra's smile collapsed. Darren's face drained of color. Celeste clutched her pearls, her composure cracking for the first time all night. Naomi continued without raising her voice. Control was more powerful than any anger could be. "I've known about Sierra Jackson for quite some time," she said plainly. "I've seen the messages, the hotel charges, the rings you looked at in Buckhead. I've seen every promise you made her with money you stole from our joint account." Sierra sank lower in her seat, her confidence evaporating. Naomi faced the crowd again. "And Darren, since you were so eager to make tonight a memorable moment, let me help you out." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. "This," she said, holding it up, "is the official documentation from attorney Lionel Perry confirming the Atlanta condo is a premarital gift, purchased solely with money from my parents. Your name was added later for convenience. Legally, the property is mine. You cannot touch it." Whispers ripped across the room like wildfire. Hayes froze in his seat. Celeste's face darkened. Darren looked like he had been punched in the chest. Naomi wasn't finished. "And since we're being transparent tonight," she added, "let me also share something you didn't know. 2 months ago, I inherited a full estate from my aunt overseas." She pulled out a second set of documents. "That includes a condominium in Munich, a luxury condo in Miami Beach, multiple investment accounts, and cash assets worth several $1,000,000. The guest's eyes widened. Someone whispered, "Lord have mercy." "I wasn't planning to discuss this publicly," Naomi said. "But since Darren wanted to explain how he's outgrown me, you all deserve context. I am not trapped. I am not devastated. And I'm not losing anything tonight." She locked eyes with Darren. "You are." Murmurs turned into open reactions, gasps, head shakes, outrage directed at him. Naomi kept going, her tone unwavering. "The $60,000 you spent on Sierra, the attorney, the hotel rooms, the dinners, and this $45,000 celebration? That was our money. So congratulations, Darren, you threw yourself a very expensive breakup party." Laughter erupted in the back of the room. Naomi stepped aside, giving Darren the floor as if daring him to speak. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. His voice strangled under the weight of the truth. She turned back to the microphone. "To everyone here, I apologize for the scene Darren created. It wasn't my choice. But I will not be manipulated, disrespected, or robbed, not in private and not in public." She placed the microphone gently on the stand. "As for you, Darren, I'm filing for divorce first thing Monday morning. You're free to start your new life. Just don't expect it to happen in my condo." Naomi walked away with perfect composure. Behind her, chaos exploded. Guests confronted Darren loudly. Celeste yelled at Sierra. Sierra snapped back, blaming Darren for lying about the money. Hayes tried to slip out the side exit before being called out by name. People pulled out their phones, recording everything. Several women surrounded Naomi to support her as she left. Naomi's boss publicly sided with her, telling Darren he was finished. By the time Naomi reached the lobby, Darren's perfectly planned evening had disintegrated into a public disaster. His reputation, his lies, his secret future, everything was collapsing before his eyes. And Naomi never looked back. Naomi stepped into the taxi outside the Watergate Grand with the same calm she carried throughout the night. The driver glanced at her elegant dress and tear-free eyes, sensing she wasn't returning from a celebration but something much heavier. Still, she sat upright, steady, composed, clutching her leather folder, the one containing every ounce of power Darren didn't know she had. As the city lights blurred past, Naomi felt something she hadn't expected. Lightness. Not joy, Not triumph. Just release. A quiet understanding that she had finally broken free from a man who viewed her love as a convenience and her loyalty as something he had the right to betray. She breathed deeply, feeling her spirit uncoil from years of emotional weight. 3 months passed. On a crisp Monday morning, Naomi walked up the courthouse steps dressed in a tailored navy suit. Her curls pinned neatly, her confidence unmistakable. Asha Monroe, her attorney and closest friend, stood beside her carrying the case file. Inside the courtroom, Judge Selena McCall, a stern black woman known for fairness and zero tolerance for foolishness, presided over the hearing. Darren entered looking nothing like the polished man who gave that anniversary speech. His skin looked dull, his eyes tired, his suit wrinkled. Even Celeste looked defeated, sitting behind him in the gallery with a stiff posture and thin lips pressed tight. Judge McCall adjusted her glasses and scanned the file. Mrs. Carter. Mr. Carter, after reviewing the documentation provided, the matter is extremely straightforward. Darren swallowed hard. The judge continued, her voice crisp and final. The Georgetown condo is confirmed as Mrs. Carter's separate premarital property, purchased entirely with her family's funds. It is not marital property. It remains solely in her possession. Darren's shoulders collapsed. Judge McCall didn't slow down. The marital assets consist of the mountain cabin and the vehicle. Those will be divided equally. Regarding the $43,000 in personal loans Mr. Carter incurred without Mrs. Carter's knowledge, those debts belong to Mr. Carter alone. Celeste gasped. Clutching her bag, Naomi remained composed. And finally, Judge McCall said, given the length of the marriage, lack of children, and Mrs. Carter's independent financial standing, no alimony will be awarded. With a firm tap of the gavel, this marriage is dissolved. Darren stared at Naomi with a crushed, pleading expression, as if suddenly realizing the full cost of his betrayal. But Naomi didn't waver. Asha squeezed her hand, gently supportive. Proud outside the courthouse on the wide stone steps, Darren rushed toward her. Naomi. Wait, he said, breathless. Please, I'm sorry. I never meant for things to get this far. Maybe we could stay friends. Start over. Just talk. Naomi looked at him calmly. Darren, you didn't just betray me, you planned my destruction. You involved your mother, a lawyer, and another woman. You spent our money and tried to steal my home. That's not a mistake. That's a character. His face cracked with shame. She stepped back. I don't hate you, but I'm done with you. Truly done. Then she walked toward her new black Audi, bought with a small portion of her inheritance, and drove away without another word. Over the following months, Darren's downfall became impossible to escape. Once the golden employee at his firm, he was fired after the video of the anniversary fiasco circulated among colleagues. His reputation collapsed instantly. No firm wanted to hire a man who publicly humiliated his wife and got caught in a financial scheme. He burned through his savings trying to maintain his lifestyle. Sierra left him the moment the money stopped and posted cryptic messages online about toxic men with broken dreams. Darren moved back into Celeste's house, what was left of it. After years of overspending and debt, she had been forced to sell her grand suburban home and move into a modest rental. Neighbors whispered about their fall. Friends avoided them. Doors closed everywhere. Eventually, Darren scraped together enough money to buy a used car and signed up to drive for a rideshare service. Some nights he drove past wealthy neighborhoods, staring at homes he once believed he deserved. Ironically, he occasionally drove passengers to the Watergate Grand, the same place he had staged his own humiliation. Meanwhile, Naomi rebuilt her life with clarity, dignity, and peace, and Darren spent each night behind the wheel of his taxi, silently replaying the moment he realized the woman he underestimated was the one who had the power all along. 3 months after the divorce, Atlanta felt lighter, quieter, almost distant to Naomi, as if she had stepped out of a long, heavy chapter and into a life written entirely by her own hands. Meanwhile, the fallout from Darren's betrayal spread across the city faster than gossip ever could. Sierra, who once bragged about her future condo life, pivoted quickly. Within weeks, she married the owner of a successful restaurant chain and began posting glamorous photos online. painting herself as the innocent victim of a broken love triangle. None of her followers knew the real story. Naomi didn't care. Naomi had already moved into her Miami Beach condo, a stunning, airy space filled with floor-to-ceiling windows, white walls glowing with sunlight, and a balcony overlooking the endless Atlantic. For the first time in a long time, she woke up to peace instead of dread. She resigned from her corporate job with grace and used a portion of her inheritance to build something meaningful. A small independent publishing house specializing in European literature and global storytelling. Books had always been her quiet passion. Now she turned that passion into a company with her own name on the door. Her former boss, Marilyn, sent her a handwritten card. "You didn't crumble. You stood up. And every woman in the office admires you for it." Her new employees, mostly young writers and editors, looked up to her, impressed not only by her leadership, but by the quiet strength in the way she carried herself. Whenever they whispered about her story, she simply smiled and corrected them. "I'm not superhuman," Naomi would say. "I just chose not to be destroyed." One weekend, Asha Monroe visited Miami. The two women sat on Naomi's balcony overlooking the ocean, sipping fresh juice as the breeze brushed over them. "You know," Asha said with a soft grin, "most people would have gone for revenge." Naomi shook her head. "I didn't need revenge. I just needed to protect what was mine. The rest handled itself." Asha laughed. "You handled it with a level of grace I've never seen." Naomi turned toward the horizon, watching the ripple of sunlight dance across the water. Peace feels better than payback. Later that night, Naomi opened a letter she'd been ignoring for weeks. It was from Darren. The handwriting was messy and tired. The letter was full of regret, apologies, excuses, and a desperate plea for forgiveness. He wrote about sleepless nights, losing everything, and realizing he'd betrayed the only person who ever truly cared for him. Naomi read it calmly all the way through. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She didn't feel anger. She simply folded it neatly and placed it in a drawer, not as a keepsake, but as a closed chapter, somewhere across town. Darren finished a long night shift in his rideshare car, dropping off tourists near the beach, staring at oceanside condos he once believed he deserved. He drove alone, swallowed by the consequences of his own decisions. Naomi stepped onto her terrace, the breeze brushing her skin, the night sky shimmering with promise. She wrapped her silk robe around herself and breathed deeply, letting the calm settle into her bones. She wasn't angry. She wasn't broken. She wasn't waiting for closure. She had rebuilt her life with her own hands. She had chosen peace over pain, and she had stepped into a future brighter than anything she had imagined. It was the life she deserved, finally, fully and beautifully hers.